Oh.
I'm Neff. I play the bass.
I'm Michael. I play the throat.
I'm Clay. I play the drums.
And I'm Chris, and I play guitar, and we are Novely.
And so, when did this project begin?
It began like 2021, right?
2021, like end of 2021.
Yeah.
It was like just me and you, and like I don't know. You can just kind of you can go over the story if you want.
It was pretty much just me and Chris at my apartment, like kind of joking around, saying we're gonna start a band. We would go into our car with the amp and like write riffs and scream in the car.
So like he lived with like a roommate, and it was like a 2-story like house or whatever. And there was like a guy that lived on top. We didn't really know him as much, and like it was just like he brought like his roommate had like a guitar when they moved in, and like I was like, oh, that's sick. Might as well just doodle around with it. And we were like covering like fucking songs like Green Day or whatever, I don't know. And then like over time, Mike was like, oh, I'm like learning how to scream, and it was like kind of like introduced this whole genre to us, like for me or so. And then I thought it was like really cool. So like I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna mimic it, because I was like, I've been playing for like since I was like 10 or so, but I didn't really like knew any other like tunings besides like obviously like standard or drop beat. I was just kind of like a fucking whim. And like
He knows like every classic rock song on guitar.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Green Day's like, I think Green Day's like kind of fucking sick. Anyways, so like Midwest Pen Pals was like kind of introduced to me from him, and then we were like, oh, like Mike was like, you should cover that in a way, and we were like, you know, I'm learning how to scream, so let's just do like my castle, your castle, whatever. And I was like, okay, you know, so they did that, and over time I was like, oh, this tuning is really sick, to a point to where I was like noodling around, and then it just got to a point to where we were just like naturally writing, and we couldn't fucking play in the house obviously with the guy on top, so he had like a fucking plug-in to where like it's like a plug-in outlet that can go into a car, and we had like a miniature amp, and we was like, all right, well, the car's like out there, so why don't we just go in the fucking car, like him in the driver's seat, I'm in the passenger seat, and the fucking like amp in the back seat, and we'll plug it in. And anytime we want to try riffs, we could just go screaming, and I'll just play loudly in there. And I remember like our homie would come home, and we would have him like judge, we'd like get in the fucking car, and it's like, all right, how does this go, you know? But it just kind of over time we just ended up like stacking songs to where like, oh, this is like something that I felt like it could be like kind of serious, you know. And we also kind of like had like this one church that like we would kind of like go in and jam at. That was like your parents that like.
Yeah, my parents they used to work at a church, and I still work there as the janitor. So we would go in like the student center area and jam in there. They had like a little like stage and shit.
That was kind of like our second spot. And then like as we kind of like had like more songs piled up, we were like, we should really try to take this serious and try to find other members, you know. So like it was a fucking struggle for sure. I remember like it was like 5 solid months of like trying to find a fucking drummer, you know. We had like some people that barely fucking played, but like obviously when you're like, we were just like fucking skaters at the time, you know, like our whole friend group skates. And like we didn't know anyone in the fucking scene, so it was like, how the hell are we gonna like figure out who we can find that was like pretty good? You know, we had like 2 people, but they were like, you know, like keep a beat, that's fine, but like not like do a technical form. And then like this guy came along.
Yo, all right. So me and Neff, the bassist, Jeff, Neff, whatever you want to call him.
Neff. It's Neff.
Yeah, Neff.
Call him Neff when you do see him.
If you know him,
Jeff, it's Neff.
If you know him in real life, it's Jeff. If you know him from the skate park, it's Neff. But we were in a band together, and then they hit us up like to jam because they just knew us through like skating. And then we like just met up with them to like learn the songs that they had for the first show, and then it just went from there on.
Yeah, it was like a week before the first show, and like
I was like writing in a notebook like the chords that Chris was playing on the guitar, and I like brought it to the show, and I was like, all right, fuck it, like
He was basically like a fill-in at first.
Yeah.
Because I remember like
he wasn't down until we.
He's still a fill-in.
I'm still filling in.
Like he was so not about it until we had clout,
Bro.
and then he was like, "Oh, I
remember like our first show. I remember like as like we finished it, fucking, I went up to you and I was like, so like, are you in? And you were like so hyped. You're like, dude,
I was like, yeah, that was fucking sick.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I
And then
remember
the first show, everyone from the skate park's there, like loving it, and he's like, "Oh, I want to be."
it was sick. I like fucking cried at like the first show because I never played like a show before. It being like my first band, I was like, whoa, this is like a crazy like rush going through my head I'd never felt before. You know, this is like like oh, it's our first show. It's like. I don't know who the fuck's gonna be there. And then out of nowhere, like all of our friends like surprised us in a way. I didn't know like let's say Jack was gonna be there or like Logan.
But it's really skating that like brought this all together. At
Pretty
the end of the
much.
day.
We all skate, so like we knew of Clay and like I mean I met you on the first practice, but I'm sure you like knew of like Neff and all of them. But like we all knew each other from like skating, and like. I guess like you like pretty much hit up Clay on the DMs when like we pretty much found out like oh you're a fucking sick drummer, but you were like in another
We're a
band.
package deal.
Yeah, they were like in another band.
Yeah, we've only played in
before,
bands
like,
together.
We hit them up, and like we just like I don't know. I'm very lucky to have you guys, and especially for like
Thanks, man.
how we just like immediately like got along so well, especially for skating. I
We
remember
basically like merged best friends.
Right,
We like
yeah.
hung out a lot,
yeah,
and then they have known each other since they were like young as fuck.
Yeah.
So we just kind of like merged friends.
yeah.
But
Like
it's cool.
after like every practice, we'll go to like this park called Campbell Skate Park in like St. Pete, you know? Like we'll jam in his garage, and once we like finish up, we'll jam early. We'll finish up, and then we'll go skate, and that's kind of how we got a lot closer as friends, you know? And then like over time, it just kind of got a lot stronger, and like yeah, I don't know. Anyways, sorry to keep that question going. What's the next question?
Now we don't skate
You
anymore.
can edit that down or whatever.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
my bad.
Next question.
But like,
What was that? The whole interview?
I don't know. Basically,
If
like,
you think we're not doing good, you can like slow us
Nah,
down.
dude. yeah. Basically, like over time after like Neff agreed, we ended up writing more. We finished the EP. We put that shit out. That was awesome. And then like wrote the fucking album.
Dude, please
It was
just,
sick.
like, post the whole thing.
It was fucking sick.
What, someone will watch all of it.
I think I pressed the button on it.
Oh no, it's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the light's green.
All right.
That was good too.
It's
Okay.
I forget about that.
So, what got you guys like into making music individually?
like
Just
our
go one
inspo
by
or
one.
more so about
Make it
like.
quick. Make it quick.
Short and concise.
You go first because I don't. It's like that's pretty broad, I guess.
Okay, I played a couple instruments in elementary school, but I really got like into guitar and bass like kind of around high school. I grew up going to a skate shop called Brotherhood in Fort Myers where I grew up, and the guy who ran that, his name's Tim. He had a drum kit behind the counter, so he'd always play the drums like in the store, and he'd be like, "Yo, you should get a bass," and we'll be like a little rhythm section, you know. So in high school, I got a bass and I jammed with him for a while, and then like when I moved out, I just kept playing on my own, and then met this guy, played in a band with him for a while, and then ended up meeting these guys. So just been playing bass ever since.
I don't really play any instruments. I play a little bit of guitar, but my dad has been like musically like inclined his whole life, and he was like in a bunch of metal bands back in like the late 80s and 90s and stuff. So it's been around me like my whole life. And I took like guitar lessons when I was a kid, and he was always like kind of like trying to get me to do that, and I never really picked it up. But then like it kind of was me getting into music more that got me wanting to do it, like going to shows and stuff. I was like, oh, this is like really sick. I want to like, you know, be more into it than just like listening to it, I guess. And I wasn't good at anything, so I figured I'd try to scream. So
Yeah, and you have a beautiful fucking scream.
He does have a beautiful screen.
you know, you really do.
So does Chris.
I try. I try, you know. I don't know. Let's see where it fucking goes, I guess. All right.
I started playing music, playing in like youth group at church and stuff. Like that was my first introduction to like learning it and all that, and then started joining bands outside of church like late high school to like after graduation, and then got really into like hardcore and all that, and it kind of like all just came full circle, meeting like Michael and everything through skating, because like he's super into hardcore now, and like that's definitely like an inspiration for Novely, even though it's not like what we are fully, but we take a lot of inspiration from like older bands that were like a lot more melodic but still considered like hardcore, I guess. But yeah, definitely church was like my intro.
Hell yeah. I started when I was 10. My dad is a musician as well. He's a guitarist and a singer. And as before I started, he was always around me when he was like playing guitar around the house and all. And like as a kid, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know. Like he had an acoustic guitar, and I would always want to play with him. And then he put me into lessons at one point, and I think for like 3 years I was doing that. And then later there was like this School of Rock thing or whatever that like I could sign up for and like pretty much be in like a couple bands, whatever, and you play like a show and all that stuff. And that kind of got me more into like doing all this sort of things. And I guess over time I kind of like developed that skill, but I didn't really like later pick it up like to like a serious level until like back in like 2021, 22, when like Michael was introducing me to all this stuff, and that kind of brought me to like a whole new world of like, oh, this is like something that I can really be very, you know, like expressional over it. I don't know, show like pure emotion of like what this really mean to me. And yeah, I guess like I said, I started when I was 10, and then here I am now, I guess doing the same shit. Yeah. Sorry.
Dude, honestly, this happens all the time
No,
whenever I
you're
use
good.
like another.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I'll
funny.
keep an eye on it. All right, I got you.
You don't have to. We'll just like it doing this. So what's the story behind the name Novelty?
Oh, dude, can I?
You can say
I
that.
feel like
We
so.
might have different.
All right, so this is all Michael, but I'm just like passionate about it because like I think it's really like cool. But basically, like, so the word novel, like it's like an adjective of that word. Like if you say something's like something with a y at the end, like that's like the adjective of that word. And like novelty is just like the concept of it is kind of like a word that Michael made up that like when I first heard it, because we were throwing around band names, and I was like, at first I was like, oh, and like novelty, like I was like, okay, but like now I love it, but it like took a minute to like click. But I think it's really cool that it has a meaning, and it's like this adjective that's like something that you have to look deeper into, or just like how a novel is like just like I don't know, his lyrics are pretty wordy, and like our instrumentals are pretty like just like riff to riff, where it's like it's a lot to take in at once. And I think that like that word just like is like a cool like meaning for that. And like I don't know, even if you like bought our vinyl or whatever, like there's a lot of stuff that like you would never see like unless you bought that. And like it just like to me that's like what novelty is. But like it's all like Michael who made that up.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Like the word is like kind of means like you have to like dig into it to like like find everything that's like in it. But I was kind of like getting the idea because I was like super into um, like Fugazi when I was like younger, and I loved how they came up with that name because I didn't want something that was like suggestive of a sound, like more so just like a word that you might be like, oh, like I wonder what they're about. I'm gonna like listen to it, and I like that it's just like short and concise in one word, and also like I feel like we kind of like try our best to make everything that we put out like physically almost be like a novel, like you open it, you pull out the insert, and you read like everything and like flip through it as if it's like a book. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what that's about.
So, what's like inspiration for your guys' music?
Who wants it?
All right, everyone name like 2 or 3 bands.
I'll start out
That's
with
gonna
it.
get messy.
So, no, you're good. I feel like for how, I guess, as the guitar player,
Sorry.
you're good. If you want to go
Oh,
first,
yeah.
I don't know if
Everyone-
you want to fucking.
Everyone, 2 or 3 for their instrument specifically.
Okay, dude,
How
that
about
would be
that? How
good.
about
All right,
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, for my instrument, the bass, the Spirit of Versailles. That's a sick one. 400 years, and oh man, a third one, Jaco Pastorius, greatest bass player to ever live from Florida.
All right, for vocals, when I was first starting out, obviously William Bonney and Jack Senef, I think that's how you say his name, but I was kind of just copying his voice when I was learning how to scream, so that was a big one. And then I would say like kind of outside of the screamo scene, I was listening to a lot of Law Dispute, and that's kind of like how I was getting like the more like talking type of vocal ideas. And then I would say right now Touche is like a big inspiration on my style because I like how you can understand everything he's saying.
I could like talk about so much shit, but like my like Scrams Mount Rushmore is 400, Sleepy Time Trio, and Seisha is like my favorite drummers, probably. And then me and Neff both listen to a lot of like soul and R&B type shit. Like that's definitely a big like inspiration at the end of the day. But
We can take that one. I guess for me, for guitars, I guess how the band started, or especially for the first album, it was very heavily inspired by like Merchant Ships and William Bonney, and that was like kind of the only two things. I was like really new to this whole like genre or so. So as those two being like what they were, it was always just kind of like what carried me to like how I guess I looked at like what expression I could put. I don't know how to put towards, like I started out with like those tunings in a way, and like I didn't really know how like other genres would go about in my head of like other bands. So those were always like the two that stuck out, or especially for how I naturally played. But, like for like updating for nowadays, like this really good band Who Calls So Loud is like top tier. Like that's like first on my list. Like the whole discography is really great and everything. And then it's like this. It's like a French band, the French band like Ditro. That band. I don't even know what the fuck the album is, but the one with the fucking
the one
doll,
with the
baby, whatever, the doll baby.
that's like
That one
Yeah.
is so good. There's like a 10-minute song on there that I fucking would like play every single time if I'm like on the way to practice.
Yeah.
It's such a great influence for like how I guess I perceive how I play, because I'm not like a chugger. I don't really fuck with chugging as much. I don't really like, I don't know, that shit's alright.
Yeah.
I just kind of more so like focus on like the melodics of like picking and everything. I'm more of like a picker than anything else. But like, yeah, like Merchant Ships, Ditro, Call So Loud, I guess like my top 3 of like what I like, But yeah.
Dude, can I plug the studio somehow?
Go ahead.
You want to plug it at the very end too.
Alright.
I feel like that works best.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
If you like anything else to say, I'll just be like, I record music. Like if you like 100 a song. No, you don't have to do that. I'm kidding. I feel like you're gonna chop it up, and this has been like super chill, so I'm like not stressed at all.
Nah, man,
I
you
feel
gotta
like
like
we did good.
just post it all the way through. Do not chop it up because it's gonna look fake. Just fucking just post it raw all the way through.
Dude, I honestly love posting it just like the whole video. I feel like it's just like chill,
All right, so it's
Damn.
Put out your ad right now, dude. Put your fucking ad out.
Mixing, mastering, recording, 100 a song. St. Pete, Tampa area. Like, you can crash tonight. Hit me up. I record. I recorded our album. I recorded a few other local bands. I'm learning. I'm getting better every month.
He's fucking sick. Don't hit up anyone else that you're thinking about. You go to fucking, you better, if you're like in fucking Ohio, you fucking fly to Florida and you record off. All right. It's cheap. It's efficient. He's great. We need money.
If you need album art, hit up Michael.
He's flyer than your flyers. It's a true fact. Your flyers suck. All right, next question.
What's your guys' favorite song to perform?
Ooh.
I think we all.
I think we can all agree. I mean, let's go by
Alright.
Whisper for Help. Yeah.
I think everyone's is Whisper for Help.
Well,
Yeah.
y'all won't know this shit, but we do. Slow Heavy. Slow Heavy is fucking off the charts right now. Y'all don't fucking know that, and you never will. But Slow Heavy is so fucking sick.
It'll probably have a different name by the time you watch this.
But I don't give a fuck. You will never know what that is. It's Slow Heavy.
It's slow and it's
what
heavy.
we've been performing right now. If you get the fucking date around where this is at, and then you fucking go to our like most updated live video, you probably know. You can fucking connect the clues, right? But Slow Heavy. All right, here. That's me, right? Yeah.
What was the inspiration for like Whisper for Help?
I don't know. It starts with a bass line.
Bass line.
Oh, really?
Honestly,
Yeah,
if you want to get technical, Neff like started that song off with his bass line.
I wrote the song. No, I just wrote the intro, but that song and I don't know, just
the
kind of
talking part is kind of Seisha vibes. Like there's like a lot of stuff in there we took from, but
yeah.
I didn't even think it was from Seisha. I don't know. I never really even think about Seisha.
he gets all wordy and it's just like chilling.
That reminds me of Spirit Versailles. So that bass line, how it starts, I guess it reminds me of that.
Thanks.
And then I feel like for how we always write, it's always like it just naturally comes to us.
Yeah, sometimes it's backwards too. Like we write like the heavy parts and like the
common
end
for us.
parts
I
of the
don't know
song,
why.
and then we kind of just go back and we're like, okay, what's the intro gonna be?
We would like
And then it was probably something I was like noodling at practice. We're
Right.
like, oh, we'll just start with the bass.
write riffs, and then for some reason we're always like, that feels like an ending. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
we're fucking great. Now we're gonna have to like work. Anyways, yeah.
I feel like Whisper for Help is kind of like, to me at least, like the like novelty song. Like it's not even in like our top. I don't even think it's in our like top 10
Yeah,
songs. But
I'll
like
listen to
people
it,
when they hear
please.
are like, oh, novelty, they think of like whatever. Like here comes the sad part. But to me, like how that song flows through and how it's written, it like starts out slow, like then like kicks into like twinkle, like melodic, and then like has like the break in the middle of like emotion, and then at the end it's like heavy and like, but not heavy in like a like aggressive way. It's like heavy in like a passionate way. You know what I mean? So that's why I think that song is.
Oh, I got one.
That's all of our favorite song.
I got one real quick. Let's say, like, for how I personally would think of like how novelty is for out of every song, I think. I mean, I bet we can all agree that "Whisper for Help" is like a great representation of how we look at novelty. And I mean, personally, for me, I would like to have people look at novelty like, okay, that's like how we emotionally kind of like go about the way we write and the way we kind of express ourselves. I'm very happy
Like
with.
showing a coworker a song, it's like I'm like, people whisper for help.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Like "Whisper for Help" or like false sense in a way, but "Whisper for Help" is very like how I got. I want people to know that this is how we are as a band.
Next song or next question. Next song. We'll go through every song.
Dude, I'm shivering.
I know. A lot of people think I'm like fucking tweaking.
Dude, people are
I'm
gonna be
fucking
like, bro,
cold.
does
I'm
not
not
like,
like.
We're like, welcome to sunny Florida. We're cold.
Yeah.
70 degrees.
How would you guys describe Novelly's sound?
I feel like that's Michael could describe that best.
All right.
Because he's the one
So
who's like, that riff's too heavy, that riff's too whatever.
we're like, you might not like think it because the EP is kind of like a lot different each song, and that was kind of like when we were like figuring shit out, and then the album is more cohesive as like straight through. But I feel like especially after the album to now with writing, we're like way almost too like nitpicky with like what we take and what we don't take. Like we'll be at practice and we'll like probably jam like 20 different riffs that all like would come out and people would probably like them a lot, and like we could play them live and like they would be like sick, but we're like, oh no, like scratch that, like write something else, because we're trying to like keep it exactly how we want to sound, which is like not too like dainty and like melodic to a point where it's like something like, I don't know, like Midwest emo or whatever, but not get heavy to the point where it's like, oh, it's like screamo, like emo violence, and not like too like hardcore influence to where it's like people are gonna be like moshing like we're a hardcore band. But there's like a weird in between where it's like, okay, we're like passionately heavy and like emotional. We're not like sad to the point where you're like crying. It's like you're feeling inspired by the music, and like I don't know, it's like trying to kind of carve our own lane with the sound as much as we can.
That makes sense because I feel like that's one of the things that like really drew me to your music. Was it was just like it was not. I'm just like basic screamo, you know. There was like it felt like I was listening to like a story, you know. Like every song just felt like a different story.
Dude, I appreciate it. That's how we like.
That's like
the word novelty. Like,
that's like the biggest compliment, because that's what we're trying to do.
That's actually how we kind of like had our album, like, I guess, written out as or like organized as. Like I remember we all kind of had like a discussion where like we wanted to make sure that like each song is kind of like coordinated to where it was like almost, I guess, like telling a story. You know, obviously it's in an open interpretation or so, but like how we kind of all perceived it as was just like kind of more of like a storyline or so.
I have like an entire, like our last album, Gaps in the Fence, I Can See Through, that's what it's called. I have like an entire like song by song like story of what that album means and like why it's called that and why, like, but I've never like put it out anywhere, and I'm just like, all right, people can like decide what it is, you know.
Wait, so like, what does it mean? Like when you wrote all that down?
there was a practice. There was a practice though. We all gave our own interpretations of it. That was all like personal, and like there are songs on the album that all have something that are like very personal to our lives, where it's like I definitely give Michael all the credit for like making it what it is, but like it's very special to all of us, and it definitely, we were trying to like tell a story with it. And I think if you look deep into it, like we made it, or Michael made it like vague enough where it's like anyone can connect to it, but it all like relates heavily to all of us as well. But as far as just like our sound, going back to the question though, Michael mentioned like Touche Amore, and like I'm not super into that band personally, and like come from different like influences, but like I think that band is like a perfect example of like where we want to end up at, I guess. Like, I don't know. Just like that level and like vibe, but of crowd and stuff.
We're good. Next question.
We all try to do that.
We're good. Don't worry. You got the next question in your head? Do you want me?
Yeah, I got this one in my head. What do you guys have like coming up in the future for Novely?
EP. We have a little special list of songs that we are currently recording. My fucking cab kind of blew out, so I'm gonna have to invest in something new. I guess to look at it in a brighter side, upgrade. But as of right now, buy a cab, finish this EP or so, and then yeah, I mean traveling.
Yeah, we've
Reversal
always
of
wanted
Man.
to.
We're playing Reversal of Man's first show in like 25 years. It's pretty crazy. We pretty much got the connection because Michael's girlfriend like worked for the homie from Reversal of Man's like restaurant, and it's like super sick that we're a part of that, and the homies Watts are playing it, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I was just saying that our goal for the longest time has been to go out to the West Coast and tour out there, like in California. So hopefully by the end of this year, it could be like in tandem with like new songs. So just like put out a new EP and go, drive out there and see what we can do.
Yeah, EP is
Yeah.
the main like focus for me personally. Like, I love playing shows, but releasing music that I am proud of is like what to me is the uh, most fulfilling thing. So that's what we're trying to
And that's why
get
we're taking
cracking
our
on.
time with it
Hey,
too.
we know y'all love Gaps, and we all have so many gripes with it that like this
Yeah.
next shit, we're trying to make it
We
perfect.
It might be
like,
a while
and we-
because we want it to be really good.
Yeah, we also haven't
We
put
can't
out
even listen to
something.
Gaps.
We haven't put out something in a long time, but it's because we're being very strict about
Very
what
strict.
we are doing.
We're a lot more mature, I guess, in like a simpler way of showing it.
Not
like,
all of us.
For what'd you say? What'd you say? All right, whatever. Gaps in the Fence. It's a sick album. We're all very happy and proud of how we wrote it. But
That's gonna be our cool old shit.
yeah, pretty much. Don't listen to the fucking EP. If you like found out about us, go straight to the album. Fuck the EP. No offense. I don't
No,
know.
there's some good songs on there.
Anyways, yeah, like in a way, like in a simpler form, like picture like obviously Gaps. It came out like 2 years ago, obviously, and like that's our old stuff. We matured to such a greater level to where this EP that it's coming out very soon in the future. It's something that we're a lot more matured with, to where it feels like it's something that we didn't even expect that we can be further of. Um, but we like recently finished like a song that's like honestly we all agree that's our favorite. Besides the one that we just played, like this one that we finished, it's like I'm really proud of it, and I honestly can't wait to just kind of represent it to the public. It's
We love and support that like the scram scene, all that like Widow Dusk, all that, all love.
no, that's sick.
But we're really inspired to like we watch a lot of bands that like had longevity and they're just like more in that post-hardcore like vibe, I guess, and like we're trying to just like get on that, but we always will have that screamo influence, I think.
Next question.
Yeah.
So I guess, is there anything else you guys would like to add just to finish everything off?
I say Michael close it out. Our great.
I don't know. I don't know what to add.
We support the scene. Thank you guys for checking us out. We all really
Listen to
appreciate
Less
it.
Dead.
Listen to Less Dead. They are very underrated and deserve so much more
Well,
ever.
they're not even a Less Dead isn't even a band anymore. So listen to 22 Long Rifle because that's their new project. But Less Dead is like the band that kind of like when we were just young kids that were like, oh, screamo's sick, like we want to play screamo, and we were like writing stuff that we didn't really have like our sound. Less Dead was the first band that we played with out of state and did like a run with them, and they kind of were like inspired us to be like, wow, like that's what we could be if we like really were serious about this, and yeah.
The
So
goats.
shout out them.
Yeah.
Shout out Less
Matt,
Dead.
Owen, and Jake, we love you.
We love you.
There would be no Novely without Less Dead. That's
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, dude, we love our scene. Go make a band, play
Yeah.
with us. Like the scene is just still growing. And create something different from the public and join us.
Shout out Tampa Hardcore too, Armageddon.
Yeah, they're sick.
Yeah. Shout out to Josh from Armageddon Records because he kind of like booked us for some shows that we wouldn't just get on as a regular like screamo band in the scene because he saw us and was like, oh, these kids are like actually sick, and like booked us for stuff that kind of brought in our fan base away from just like the normal screamo shit, which is what we're kind of going for now too, is like breaking out of the like niche scene, you know what I mean?
Oh, Josh
Yeah,
helped
be
us
one
out
of
a little bit
those
on that too, dude.
more
Like,
melodic bands on the hardcore fest. And like Josh is like super real. Like he just like sees us for what we are. And like shout out to Josh for real.
I will. Thank you guys. So this is super fucking sick, dude. Like,
where's the mic again?
Please
Where's the mic?
Hopefully,
Where's the mic?
hopefully you cut some of that out.
No,
Hopefully you cut some of that out and make us look good.
part 2 coming soon.
Like how comfortable you've been.
I just want to say thank you for this interview.
Thank you so
There
much.
you go. All right.
At the end of the day, though, you don't have to cut out too much because
I hope that was good. I don't know.
Uncut, raw and uncut.